Hey folks, nice to see you. My name is Dustin Cormier. This is How to Rock Astrology. Excuse me, we're going to have a quick little word today on what are called the Gandanta Points. This is continuing our discussion on the Nakshatra series. What are the Nakshatras? Particularly right now, we're getting a little bit of a view from Light on Life by Robert Svedova and Heart to Foul. I always mix up the B and the D. It's Robert Svoboda. And we're talking about the Gandanta Points. I'm just going to give a quick, short thrift episode on this particular subject. Essentially, what's going on here is that we're talking about something which is held sacred to sidereal Vedic astrologers, and I'm kind of debunking it with the caveat that I believe it might be, it's in Vedic text. I mean, not necessarily Vedic text, I should say, because Vedic text is a very specific word, meaning a specific thing. But it is in Indian, this idea of the Gandanta. But this medieval era, the nature of something which we now know in tropical Vedic astrology. For those watching, that's my camp. We know that there's less of an emphasis on what's called these Gandanta points than there might have been assumed about 2,000 years ago. Because for those who lived 2,000 years ago, and for those who are still considering that the sidereal side of things, they took on the idea that the 27 nakshatras can be conveniently split up into 9 groups, which technically they can. But they insist that the initiation of not 9 groups, 3 groups of 9 nakshatras, and the initiation of each of these groups coincides, according to them, with a water sign going into a fire sign. These are these heated points which say, according to the siderealists, that the soul is finishing one chapter of karma, embarking on a new chapter of karma. Now, we can really get a good visual on this, actually, just by looking at this little picture here. From them is that, let's take, for example, the beginning of Leo coming after Cancer. We note that each nakshatra is, that's not going to say it here, but each nakshatra is 13 degrees and 20 minutes of arc. When you multiply that by, each nakshatra, is 13 degrees, 20 minutes of arc. When you multiply that by 9, essentially you get 120 degrees. So you can fit 9 nakshatras within 4 rashis, and then it starts again at the next fire sign, the next group of 9 nakshatras. And so, this shows that the beginning of these cycles, it's arbitrary that they start on the fire signs, but this arbitrariness to them comes from the fact that they assume that Ashwini is the first nakshatra because it lines up with Aries. Of course, we know that, again, if you've been watching the series, we know that the Rashis are not inherently tied in to the nakshatras. So this starting point for us in tropical Vedic astrology is null and outdated. But this is where the idea comes from, and this is the reason why specific emphasis is given to these Gandanta points, the points between a water sign and a fire sign. It's because it was once presumed to hold the beginning of this new cycle. Now, since we know, due to the precession of the equinox, that the start of Aries, which is coming out of Pisces, a water sign, and coming into Aries, a fire sign, the start of Aries in the vernal equinox now occurs according to tropical astrology, we consider the start of Aries to be the vernal equinox, the time of the year when spring happens. Spring occurs for us now when the sun is actually lined up with the star of Uttara Bhadrapada. Now, does this mean that maybe now Uttara Bhadrapada has this Gandanta point power? This is a question that I've thought about and I don't really know. Perhaps, I think Victor Kara has said that the Gandanta points are special in a little way, but not nearly as important as the Siderealists have given it, because they assumed, again, this whole imagined 9 nakshatra grouping, the 3 groups of 9 nakshatras allegedly started at these Gandanta points, which we know is not true today in our vision of things. But that's not to say that it's not entirely useful. So, so I'm going to do a little bit of a reading here just to give a little bit of short thrift context to what the Gandanta points are. This is from Robert Svoboda and Heart to Foul. They kind of say that the strength of a juncture point, a sandhi, is weakened and ill-defined due to the forced intermingling of two differing energies. And the energies of one 9 nakshatra grouping are different from the energies of another 9 nakshatra grouping, and the points where they converge hold intense energy. So these Gandanta zones are considered difficult karmic places, but they are often auspicious for certain spiritual endeavors. And the end of the Gandanta, technically defined, means end of the cheek. The end of the cheek portions of the nakshatras, they form a class of sandhi, which is a juncture point between the two energies, which are considered, Jyotish considers inauspicious. These portions are the last, essentially, it's the point between Cancer and Leo, the point between Pisces and Aries, and the point between Sagittarius and Scorpio and Sagittarius. Ganda means cheek and or the whole side of the face, including the temple, which makes the Gandanta segments the junctures of the celestial faces that look down upon us. Gandanta, it's particularly inopportune because it is a double sandhi, a juncture of 2 rashis as well as 2 nakshatras. That's where the logic is that it's less to do with the fact that it's a water and fire sign, more to do with the fact that it's 2 junctures happening in the same place. Again, assumedly. By this idea, any 2 signs, any 2 rashis can be considered a Gandanta. Maybe not, but at least any 2 signs can be considered a sandhi, a joint, an inauspicious joining of 2 energies. As well as any 2 nakshatras can also be considered inauspicious. Grahas located at these points are very weak, and they indicate major problems in the native's life unless the grahas are involved are strengthened by appropriate remedies. So I'm not going to spend any more time on this because we can see that it's just a little funky idea that I think that we have better places to put our time into as astrologers. I don't know. Go by your own reckoning. Again, this is more of this historical background bones that we have to digest and spit out, so now we can get to the more fun things we want to discover about the nakshatras. So stay tuned. on the next episode. Thanks for watching. We're going to be talking about the characteristics of the nakshatras on our next episode. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.